Tonight, we've got two incredible public servants who are stepping up when Los Angeles needs leadership the most. LA's new District Attorney, Nathan Hawkman, and Sheriff Robert Luna. With the devastating Palisades fire burning between 17,000 and 23,000 acres, depending on how it's measured, and becoming the most destructive wildfire in LA history, these two are not sitting on the sidelines. They're out there protecting our communities, cracking down on criminals who dare take advantage of this tragedy through looting and arson. This team recently announced charges, and we're going to talk about that tonight. But first, let's meet District Attorney Nathan Hawkman. Mr. DA, how are you, sir?
I'm well. Thank you for asking.
Thank you for everything you're doing. It's good to talk to you again. When we last talked, neither of us had any idea what was just around the corner. This has been a shocking and devastating development. Is it getting under control at all in terms of the fires from what you're hearing?
So I am hearing that even though there are certain winds, we're suffering from a red flag warning right now, that the winds are directed to other parts of the county and other counties, and less so in Pacific Palisades and the Eden, Pasadena, Altadena area, where those fires have literally ravaged tens of thousands of acres. You know, it's interesting, I'm part of the over 200,000 people who have been evacuated, myself and my family, for over a week. My sister had a house in Pacific Palisades that she lived in with her 4 boys and her husband, and that house has been burned down to the ground along with hundreds of neighbors' houses. It is about as close to an apocalyptic vision as you could have seen. And it just emphasizes all the more while the people who are trying to take advantage of people in their lowest hours and most hours of need are despicable. And we are going to make sure that they get arrested for any crimes that they commit, they get prosecuted, and we seek maximum punishment for each and every one of them.
Well, I can't tell you how much that's music to my ears, Mr. DA, because I don't think that's always been the case in LA. You and I have talked about that before, and it's so refreshing to hear that law and order approach to this. And I just have to take a moment to say sometimes people forget that people like yourself who are out there fighting for all the rest of the citizens are people too, and I'm sorry that your sister's lost her house and that you're evacuated and still putting in around-the-clock efforts. So thank you for your sacrifice and doing this for everybody else. Let me ask you, we've got over 200,000 people that have been evacuated, as you say, including yourself. We are seeing looting. We're seeing people that are dressing up as first responders and that sort of thing. How are these people being caught? Are they being caught in the residences? Are they being caught on the streets? How are they being screened for, and how are they being apprehended?
By every means possible. Sometimes we've had situations where they've driven into these evacuation zones, been confronted by law enforcement. We have a situation that you'll hear about the charges shortly, where people were impersonating firefighters, wearing firefighters' outfits, and when confronted by law enforcement, obviously their stories didn't hold up, and they were arrested. As far as the looters go, we've so far charged 9 different looters. 3 of them, for instance, went into a Pacific Palisades home, were caught on a Ring camera. Thereafter, through very quick investigation and following up on leads, they tracked them down to an apartment building in Koreatown, about 10 to 15 miles away. They surveilled them and they waited till they left. They were actually all apprehended. In fact, one that tried to escape crashed into another car, got charged with felony hit and run. And eventually they found some of the stolen merchandise on them. Turns out that 2 of those people are now 3-strike offenders, and they are actually looking at the maximum sentence of life in prison for their crime. Another individual was a 2nd striker. He's looking at 22 years for his crime. So the punishments, the maximum punishments will be very severe for these crimes. And we are trying to do our best to send that warning shot out to all those would-be criminals that this is not the time you want to engage in criminal conduct. And if you do, justice will be swift and it will be significant.
If you're worried about IRS collection tactics, you don't have to face them alone. Tax Network USA is here to help. Tax Network USA is the nation's premier tax relief firm and has negotiated over $1 billion in tax relief for clients. Our services include penalty forgiveness, hardship programs where you might not have to repay anything until your tax debt expires, and offer in compromise solutions for lump sum settlements. Whether you owe $10,000 or $10 million, our experts are ready to assist you. Even if you're behind on taxes due to missing personal or business records, Tax Network USA can guide you through the process. Tax season is long over, and for the IRS, that means it's collection season. To schedule complimentary consultation, call 1-800-958-1000 or visit tnusa.com/Dr. Phil. Don't let the IRS's aggressive tactics control your life. Take charge of your financial future. Visit tnusa.com/Dr. Phil today. Well, let me tell you, that's something that I really want to amplify here because I can tell you, I know so many people that are among those that are evacuated. My house is kind of on the cusp of this. One of my sons is on the cusp, the other's in Calabasas, and so we're all watching the winds to see what happens. But I've talked to people that are evacuated, and one of their frustrations is, look, we want to go in and protect our home against the fire and against looters and that sort of thing, and we can't get in. And our experience has been that if somebody's arrested, if somebody's in there trying to loot or whatever, they'll be out before the officers have the paperwork filled out. That's been our experience over the last several years in LA. And what I've been saying to those that are voicing this to me is that's not the case anymore. Since Nathan Hawkman has taken over, they're not walking out the door before they can get the paperwork filled out. You're going to prosecute these people. You're going to take it to the full extent of the law. They need to know that and rest assured that there are consequences to these people that are doing this.
Absolutely. In fact, working with the sheriff, who I know you'll have on your show coming up, and the chief of police of LAPD, Jim McDonald, they are no longer citing and releasing people who are committing these type of crimes. They're all getting booked, and where appropriate, they're then being brought before a magistrate. Real bail is being set in these situations so they don't get back on the street. And again, sadly, in these type of situations where so many are suffering, there are those few people in our society that look at this as the opportunity to profit. And those are the people that we are sending this very strong message to, that if you want to go ahead and do this, we're going to catch you and throw the whole book at you.
Yeah, and you've been careful to say that charges are not evidence, but these people are going to get their due process, but they are going to be prosecuted, and this evidence is going to be brought to bear. And if they're convicted, they're going down for this crime. They're not going to be pled out. They're going to go down for this crime, and they're going to do serious time for this. That's the message.
That is the message, because it's a message not only for those individuals who've committed these crimes, but again, for the ones that are even thinking about it. Very often these criminals do a cost-benefit analysis. What we're doing is we're going to increase the cost through the roof. So if they think that this is a free pickings to go ahead and go into houses that have been evacuated, thinking that they won't be caught, thinking that the police, even if they do catch them, will only give them a slap on the wrist, they have something they're about to learn differently. And we are sending that message out each and every day because, again, the people who have cooperated in these evacuations are putting their trust in law enforcement, that law enforcement will keep their houses safe. Part of the reason they imposed a curfew here in Los Angeles County on these fire-ravaged areas from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. is precisely to keep people safe and their houses from being broken into, so that if anyone is in these areas who shouldn't be there, so that other than firefighters, law enforcement officials, and disaster relief people, Nobody else should be there. The police have already said, and they say it unequivocally, you will be arrested. And they've had to arrest people. Obviously, if residents have tried to get in, they try to work with the residents. But even residents have to understand that these curfews are being done for the community's good. These fires, as you know, can turn in a moment's notice and start surging down canyons and areas that you think are otherwise safe. And then all of a sudden, you got to get these people out who have violated the curfew. In addition, it takes law enforcement extra efforts to figure out if you're a resident or not a resident. And sadly, there's people who are impersonating residents trying to get into these areas. So for that reason, they've instituted this curfew. It's difficult. I would love to get back to my house, and hopefully when I get back there, everything is in order.
Right.
But I'm willing to sort of sacrifice my personal interest in getting back to my house for the community's good. And so many people are as well, and they have my forever appreciation and admiration, as do the firefighters and the law enforcement officers working around the clock.